Hello, hi, and welcome. Welcome to the channel or welcome back to the channel. Welcome in though, guys. How's everybody doing tonight? Hopefully you guys are having a great Sunday. I'm going to raise up my desk a little bit. I think, oh, that's a little too much. Sorry about that. Okay. I'm never prepared when I come on live with this desk for some reason. But anyways, welcome to the channel or welcome back to the channel. It's good to see everybody. I got Nancy with me. She's behind me tonight. She's looking over me, looking over my shoulder. She's my co-host. I should have matched her a little better. I should have wore blue. And the dogs are at the door, so it's gonna be a fun live, and it's gonna be great. I'm like, and the dogs are at the door. I can hear him out there. Vincent stepped out for a minute, and I didn't realize he was leaving. I thought he was just like going to the car, and I left the dogs outside, or not outside, just out the door. They're inside. They're in the hallway. But let me see who's in here. I saw Jan was in here. A nice treat. Hey, Glowbug. Hey, DM. I think there was probably messages before. I just didn't see them. Got Jam, got Pooh Bear. Hey, Debbie. Welcome in. Welcome in, everybody. Hey, Catherine with the K. Whist, you're here early tonight. Normally, Whist is running in. Mr. Rosebud, Ashley, welcome in. It's good to see you guys. Hey, ALR. We're going to go over Delphi tonight, so it's a little different. It's been a while since we went over Delphi. Mr. Rosebud, hold my beer. I'm going to push that button. That's a good idea. You know what? I kind of felt like having a drink today. Like, I don't know why. I don't drink. Like, I never drink. But I was like, it was of all places, I was in the shower. I'm just like in the shower and wash my hair. Maybe it was the music I was listening to or something, but I was like, I want to have like a drink. And then I didn't, because the urge wasn't that bad. But I was just like, I haven't had the urge to drink in years. Hey, Victoria. Hey, Jerry. Welcome in. It's good to see everybody here tonight. Hey, Andy. Lurkin. Hey, Cynthia. One of the longest names on the YouTube. I've seen some long names though. You filled your cart for $24? Were you sleeping? You probably were sleeping. That's crazy. That's crazy good. Shoot. Vincent's every car that Vincent's ever purchased, my cars have always been unleaded, cheap, whatever. You can put like the cheapest gas in them. Every car he's had, well, he's only had 2 since we've been together, but they both have been premium. Like even like an Acura. We have an Acura, I don't know what it is. I can't even remember right now. But nothing that means premium. Like you look at the car and you're like, no, that's an unleaded car. Nope. Fooled me. Didn't really, he told me, so I didn't put unleaded in there, but Hey, Juno, welcome in. Hey, Cat's Life. Yeah, ALR. Oh, up, let me go. Take it back. Take it back. Take it. I know. ALR was in last night. I was like, what? Or was that today? Man, when I do a day live, when like we did a members live, when I do a day live in between like lives, it's all over for me after that. Cause then I'm like, when did I see you? When and where? So we'll go ahead and we'll get on with it tonight. Let me pull up what I need. I'm kind of blocking Nancy there. That's okay though. That's okay. We're going to talk about Delphi. It's been a while since we have talked about Delphi. I should have looked to see, but it's been a while. Memorandum came out. We read through that massive document dump. And then I don't know what happened, but this case just started going and my brains weren't going with it. T-Rebs moobs. Hi, Titanium Bill. T-Rebs moobs. That's funny. But we never got back around to actually like going over the case and going over what was kind of going on with Richard Allen. Now he does look like he's filled out a little. I have a picture of him. He's filled out. Last time, well, not the last time, but the time before we saw him, he wasn't as filled out, Guess he's eating now. Guess he's eating. Now, my head is all over the place with this case. The defense is doing their job. I'll tell you that right now. If their job is to, plant the seed of doubt, and that's what it is, they're planting it, I don't know. Maybe we'll see how we feel at the end of the live. Moobs. Moobs. Are there moobs? Okay. So I figured we go through this article, and then of course Nancy came out and said some stuff, and I'm glad she did because I needed her to. It's weird because every time I go to, I'm thinking about covering a case, it'll be like she will cover it, like she'll cover it, and it won't even be a case that she's covered like very extensively, but it always works out that way. Thanks, Nancy. See, Nancy's got my back, not Betty. She doesn't have Betty's back. Oh, before we get started today, also, that woman, old Nancy Grace, I saw on her Twitter, I should show to you. She was taking a picture of her husband on like a little kayak in the ocean with like sharks around him. Like he was just like looking at the sharks. And I'm like, what? Get him out of the kayak. Get him out of the kayak. He's braver than me. Braver than me. But if you guys don't remember this case, this will kind of help your help your memory as well. And they had a lot of pictures, so that's why I picked this article here. And it had kind of everything that's been going over the last few days with the pretrial hearings. So basically, there's been a lot going on in this case over the past few days. They've had pretrial hearings, and they are going over like a laundry list of things that need to be brought forward to the judge. So tonight, I want to go over what happened to Abby and Libby. I want to go over the updates, and want to go over what Richard Allen's been saying and doing. Because apparently Richard Allen's confessed to this crime over 60 times. Now, there was a gentleman that had to listen to like 600 phone calls from him. I'm sure that was fun. And I guess within the phone calls, he was confessing left and right. His defense attorneys are saying that he was confessing because he was under duress and he was having a mental break. I don't know. You guys decide on that. I want justice for these girls. Some things are, I look sideways. I do, like especially the way that they were like the positioning of the bodies, the crime scene itself. That is like the biggest, like that stuff I question, like the logs. I mean, I want to know how big these logs were, that were strategically placed, in this formation. And could one person really actually do that? I've been there to that bridge. And it's wooded, but this is February. There's not going to be any leaves on most of the trees, maybe like the pine trees will have them, but you're not going to have there wasn't a lot of coverage. It didn't seem like, and I was literally right there on the bridge. So I don't know. It seems like that would be a big risk to take by yourself. So let's see what this says. Yeah, see, I don't know. Like, why would he confess 60 times and then plead not guilty? I mean, they're saying that he found Jesus and that's why he was like confessing or something. I know people confess for things that they don't do, but I just could not see me doing that. I don't know. I mean, especially this case. So the Delphi murder suspect's lawyer claimed a pagan cult sacrificed 2 teenage girls who were snatched from a hiking trail and then confessed killer is innocent. Libby German, 14, and Abby Williams, 13, disappeared on February 13th, 2017, while hiking on the Monon High Bridge Trail in Delphi, Indiana. And when this case happened, I was like, I've been into it since it's happened. Like, I really wanted justice for these girls. Richard Allen, 51, was charged with their murders in October of 2022 after police linked a bullet found at the crime scene to his gun, or at the scene to his gun. Very little about the case has been revealed over the past 7 years, other than leaks from inside the investigation, until 3 days of hearings this week. We're finally getting some answers. Look how pretty those girls are. They had the whole life, you know? Okay. The Carroll County Court heard the girls were found with their throats cut, branches laid on top of their remains, and Abby's body wearing Libby's clothes. Abby and Libby set out on the trail at 1:35 p.m. and Libby posted a photo at 2:07 p.m. of Abby walking along the bridge. Police believe they were kidnapped at 2:14 p.m. and killed within 18 minutes. Actually, I think I have the video of that. Like the one that they had on the news. Okay. This is like the animation. I'll show this to you guys so you guys can kind of like if you need a reminder of like what was going on that day, what they're telling us. Let me see. I think they show a little bit more. That was kind of all it showed. I thought it was gonna show like a little bit more. Oh, it didn't show it wasn't the it wasn't no sound. Sorry about that. I just realized that. It stopped sharing. I don't know why StreamYard does that. It's okay. You guys really didn't need to hear. He didn't say anything. He didn't say like the part that I thought they were gonna say. So I'll go back over here. We'll read more. Um, but it says, Abby and Libby set out on the trail at 1:35 p.m. and Libby posted a photo at 2:07 p.m. of Abby walking along the bridge. Police believe they were kidnapped at 2:14 and unalived within 18 minutes. Prosecutors told the court that Allen confessed to the murders more than 60 times in jail calls to his wife and mother and to another inmate. So I'm wondering if he was talking to this other inmate on the phone or if this was like if the inmate was actually in jail with him at the time. Because I would assume that those could be recorded if they record like the comment area or whatever. I don't know. Prosecutors told the court that Allen confessed to the murder. Sorry, it's read that twice. So Carroll County prosecutor Nicholas McClellan also claimed Allen's intent was a SA when he allegedly kidnapped the girls. Allen's lawyers, led by Bradley Rossi, claimed the confessions were the result of his degrading mental state due to being locked in solitary confinement. The last year named 4 other people as members of a cult to the Norse god Odin, arguing the girls were killed in a ritual sacrifice. And remember when we read, I don't know if you guys remember, but we read over the crime scene and I had to hide the document. Like I couldn't show the document on the screen. It was that gruesome. And I had to reword like all of it. It was so hard to try to describe to you guys without using, you know, the words that that you needed to use. Because YouTube is a sucker for that. Where are we at? Indiana State Police Detective Brian Harshman testified about the confessions after listening to 150 hours of phone calls. He said the confessions began in late March 2023 after he had a come to Jesus moment, and Allen spoke very specifically about details of the crime and why he did it. Now, if that's the case, if there's details of the crime, then there's, I'm sure, details that he said that only the person that did this would know. I mean, now did he do it on his own? Is he not going to tell anyone else? I don't think. I think one person did this. I don't know. I don't think this was a group. I mean, just by the video of with like on the phone, on Libby's phone, I don't think think there would be more than one person. But there's the trail, they show it. I should find that video that I took. Because when I was there, I was on the other side of this bridge, like down all the way at the other end. But I think that new bridge, I mean, it comes out pretty far. Indiana State Police Lieutenant Jerry Holman also testified that an inmate alleged Allen confessed to him as well and revealed the murder weapon. Allen allegedly told him he emmed the girls with a box cutter, then dumped it in the dumpster outside his CVS. Defense lawyers want the confessions thrown out because they were a product of Allen's mental breakdown while being treated like a prisoner of war in jail. They brought in a psychologist contracted by the Indiana Department of Corrections to testify in support of that argument. Rossie's team instead point the finger at the four Odinists, including the father of Abby's boyfriend at the time of her death. Dawn Perlmutter, an expert on ritualistic crimes, testified that this crime scene is a textbook for ritualistic M. She claimed the crime scene had 7 indicators of an Odinist realistic killing, including the positioning of the branches on their bodies. She said she reviewed autopsy records, crime scene photos, and social media posts of some of the alleged Odinists, and when asked if he had any doubt the girls were sacrificed in a pagan ritual, she replied, "None at all." It says he and then she. I don't get that. Okay. I hate articles sometimes. Oh, man. Wow. McClelland moved to discredit her testimony by noting that she came in to the same conclusion in a court TV report last year before she saw any of the evidence. He asked her what her response would be if the alleged killer said that the intent was an essay. The prosecutor also contested her theory that the branches were laid over the bodies to form runic symbols, noting Allen said that the branches were there to cover the girls' bodies. Perlmutter argued blood smeared on a tree in one leaked crime scene photo was painted to form the letter F, which holds significance in Norse mythology. But Patrick Surio, a blood specialist and forensic expert from the LaPorte County Sheriff's Office, said it was more likely a transfer stain from Libby's bloody hand. Wow. Purposely painting a symbol on the tree would have involved the killer repeatedly dipping their hand on blood, he said. Perlmutter admitted there was no physical evidence tying any of the 4 men to the crime scene. Other witnesses claimed one or more of the supposed Odinists also confessed to killing the girls. Kevin Murphy, a retired Indiana State Police officer who worked on the case from 2017 to 2019, told the court there was an undeniable link between Delphi and their Odinist cult in nearby Rushville. Wow. Oh, welcome in, Steph. She changed her name. I'm glad I saw that. I'm really glad I saw that, because if I wouldn't have saw it, I would have been like, where's Steph 007 man? He said police believe that murders were the work of 2 to 6 people, and he focused on one of the alleged cultist, Elvis Fields. Murphy told the court Fields' sister gave very specific information that only someone at the crime scene would know. In a recorded call with her brother, she blurted out, "Elvis, why did you kill those girls?" Fields denied the accusations to police, but Murphy said he asked them if he would get in trouble if his spit was found on the girls. Brad Holder, the father of Abby's girlfriend and accused Odinist, was another person Allen's defense zeroed in on. His ex-wife, Amber Holder, testified that Holder told her a third alleged cultist, Patrick Westfall, confessed to killing Abby, but she acknowledged Holder was drunk when he relayed the story to her. She claimed he told her to keep my mouth shut, and if I didn't, they'd kill me. I mean, there's a big difference in what he looks like there. Amber told the court Holder had a special knife he used to cut his hands during Odinist rituals, which could be the M weapon. Former Rushville Police Department officer Todd Click, who helped with the investigation, told the court he believed the Odinist theory. He said his theory was the girls interrupted a pagan ritual and were killed for it. He also believed Holder and Westfall were on the trail that day, but there was no smoking gun physical evidence tying them to the crime scene. Click told the court he was shocked and confused when Allen was charged and not any of the 4 alleged Odinists. Holder was cleared by the main investigators based on an alibi of him clocking out of work at a landfill site half an hour from Delphi at 2:45 p.m. when the crime was believed to have occurred at 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. He then used a key fob to get into a gym in Logansport at 4:08 p.m. Prosecutors asked Judge Frances Gull to throw out all testimony claiming the Odinists were responsible and ban the theory from the trial. She is yet to rule on this. That would be a big ruling. A Crime Nation documentary in February further claimed Libby was almost, I don't remember seeing this. Okay, I don't want to say that word, out of rage and named yet another suspect. What's Crime Nation? That's not Fox Nation. What's Crime Nation? Let me know. Because we'll look it up and maybe we'll have to get that. And look at that. So that might be good to look at. The admission was seen in text from somebody on the scene and later leaked online, also claiming whoever it targeted Libby for sure and that the 14-year-old fought like hell. The documentary pointed to the man who owned the property where the girls were discovered, Ron Logan, with chilling new claims from his ex-girlfriend. Logan, who died in January 2022 from COVID, was one of the first suspects investigators looked into, and he made several media appearances in the aftermath of the murders as they gained national attention. There's a picture of Ron. A key piece of evidence in the case was a grainy video found on Libby's phone of a man walking along the trail saying, "Guys down the hill." Police released the footage on February 22nd, 2017, and said the man in the video was the prime suspect. When the video emerged, Logan appeared on Inside Edition to claim he didn't recognize the person or the voice from anyone he'd seen on his property. But his ex-girlfriend, Connie Dillman, has claimed she is in no doubt it was Logan in the clips and said she insisted to authorities her ex is the killer. "That's your voice," she said of Logan. "I heard the voice of down the hill thousands of times. It's Ron Logan." Dillman said she began her 6-year relationship with Logan after meeting him in a bar in Delphi. They quickly bonded over their love of horses and the outdoors. But she said the relationship went downhill before long as he began controlling her everyday life and treating her like a sex tool. Okay, then. Okay, we went there. "When I didn't want to have sex, he forced it on me," she said. "I was helpless." She claimed one time she tried to leave. He struck her he struck her across the head, with a wrench, leaving her with 7 stitches. Okay, well, that should be easy to prove. I mean, medical bills. Because that's a big claim. That's a big claim to be having on a dead man, The dude's not here to defend himself. Those are some big claims, honey. But you better have some receipts to back that up. And I say the same if it was reversed. Shortly after ending their relationship, the murders of the 2 teen girls rocked the Delphi community and made national headlines, leading Dillman to be sure her former lover was the killer when she saw him on TV. So she was sure after their relationship ended. It says, shortly after ending their relationship. Wonder who ended it. You know what I mean? I don't know. You know what I mean? That might be a sour woman. That might be I think that might be a woman that's a little scorned. I don't mean to laugh about if that kind of stuff was happening, but was it? I mean, you didn't say this when you guys were together, but as soon as you break up, 7 years later, it's been 7 years. Where you been? After the murders captured national attention, law enforcement came under fire for not releasing details of the crime, a factor they cited in wanting to keep control over the investigation and not release information only the killer would have known. Amid the frustration for information, lurid text messages leaked online from someone at the crime scene, which the documentary claimed were shared by Abby's uncle, David Erskine. The text read, "Me and my other sister's boyfriend are the ones who found the girls Tuesday. Coroner's report stated everything was over by 3:30. No R. Abby was dressed. Libby was nude. Libby's top half was covered with leaves and sticks, almost like they were trying to cover her. The only DNA would be from Libby's fingernails. She fought like hell. Whoever did it targeted Libby for sure and knew what they were doing with Abby. It was personal with Libby." An expert in the case added that there was talk of Libby almost being decapitated and looks like it was done out of rage. Scrutiny has fallen on the investigation and arrest of Allen following his arrest, particularly due to the evidence produced in Allen's probable cause affidavit. In November 2022, the affidavit cited just a single piece of evidence linking Allen to the murders and unspent shell casing from the scene. That's not all. He put himself there. We talk about. He said I was there. The 40 round was found unfired within 2 feet of the girls, and analysis of the round found was a match to Allen's firearm. It is unclear how the round would have been cycled into the gun, never fired, then end up between 2 bodies. That's unfortunate. I mean, that's pretty big. That's pretty big. Whether it was, an unspent or spent, you know what I mean? Like, that's pretty big. 2 weeks later, shortly after Allen's arrest, one of his neighbors saw police digging in his yard to exhume his family's dead cat. Why? The feline's hair was proved to be a match to samples found on one of the victims. Oh my gosh. That just hit me after I read it. Okay. They done resurrected the cat. How did they do this? How do you exhume a cat? I mean, they just dig up the shoebox it was buried in, or the box. I mean, that's just, oh man, wow. They're doing their due diligence. And I'm like, who would have thought? I mean, I guess if you see animal hair and you're like, you go back and you say, hey, did you used to have an animal this year? In 2017, they're like, yeah, we used to have a cat, but it's in the front yard now, underneath the bird feeder. Like, that's crazy though. The cat story, if it is true, oh my gosh, that would be crazy. If they match up some pet hairs like that, people ain't getting away with nothing anymore. The feline's hair was proved to be a match. Oh, it says proved to be a match to samples found on one of the victims. I don't know. I don't know if that's true. That's pretty telling. I mean, that's like the bombshell report also revealed investigators were looking into whether the girls were victims of a botched kidnapping plot by a local P ring. Sources close to the investigation claim that Allen was acting with at least 2 other men and was involved in an child S ring. Said McClellan openly stated that he believes Allen is not the only actor involved in this. So, okay. Even the prosecutor saying that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hit the mic. I don't think that there's more than one person. Don't you think that we would have saw them on the bridge? Or do you think that if there was other people, they were already down the hill there? And just already there waiting? Why? I guess I don't get the connection. Do you know what I mean? We're going to sit down here, you get them off of the bridge, these 2 girls, but you would have to know which ones you're going to get. I guess that people have it all planned out, but that's what it's saying on here. Cat's hair is lined up. It says, 2 weeks later, DailyMail.com exclusively revealed that shortly after Allen's arrest, one of his neighbors saw police digging in his yard to exhume his family's dead cat. The feline's hair also proved to be a match to samples found on one of the victims. I'm going to assume Abby. Just because she had the clothing might be easier to get it on her. Wow. Whoa, man. I think this is a one person thing. But that's just me. I don't know. Okay. I was watching this earlier and this was really good. So we'll review this and then we'll go over not this guy, but we'll go over Nancy Grace's new episode that she put out over this case. This is just a 11-minute video that Julie, I forget her last name, she works for Court TV. That she's the nicest news anchor on TV. But we'll go over this really quick. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it so much. If you guys don't mind just taking a second, hit the like button. It does help. I've said a lot of bad words tonight. The words that YouTube doesn't like. So I'm sure the video will be suppressed. Let's not get this video suppressed too much. Oh, yeah, I wanted to let you guys know that too. They are gonna move him. They're moving him from maximum security to a jail, which I do believe he belongs in a jail, definitely, right now. It's kinda a little late, but better late than never. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know why it does that. Just take that off of there, and then I just took it off of the thing. Hold on. Sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah, I don't know why it does that. Like, if I don't know, it's so weird. I don't know. It's weird. We'll get back there, though. Maybe. Not that. Oh, go back. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Thanks, Jan. I'm glad I saw that in the chat. 'Cause sometimes I'm slow with seeing stuff.
We've got some big
This should be
news
better.
coming out of the Delphi Murders case as suspect Richard Allen gets approval to be transferred out of the maximum security prison. So we're going to take a look at what's behind that ruling and everything else that came out of that 3-day hearing that our cameras weren't allowed in. More now from Scripps Indianapolis reporter Caitlin Kendall.
The Carroll County Sheriff won't tell us where Richard Allen is being housed, but he's now in the sheriff's custody instead of Wabash Valley Correctional Facility. This comes after Judge Frances Gull granted his attorney's motion to vacate the safekeeping order in full. This means that Allen does not have to stay in solitary confinement, though the sheriff did say it will now depend on Allen's behavior moving forward. When that motion came down, Allen was seen smiling and being embraced by his attorneys. This came after nearly 12 hours of testimony, a very long day in court where we heard from 9 total witnesses in regard to the state's motion of limine, which essentially means the state wants the court to limit what the defense can say to the jury.
I just thought of this. So instead of being in solitary confinement in a prison, he's going to be in solitary confinement, pretty much segregation in a jail. I wonder what's better about that. Maybe it's easier for his lawyers to get a hold of him in a jail than in a prison.
We heard from a blood splatter expert who described in detail how the blood found was at the crime scene. These details made family of both Abby Williams and Libby German visually upset. Aside from the safekeeping order, all other motions that have been heard over these past 3 days are being taken under advisement by the judge, and she will issue a decision as soon as she is able. Richard Allen's jury trial is set for October. In Delphi, Caitlin Kendall, WRTV.
All right, now let's talk more about what came out of that hearing that our cameras were not allowed into. I want to welcome in Court TV senior producer of our documentary unit, Barbara McDonald, somebody who's followed the Delphi case since its inception. You are without a doubt our resident expert. So let's begin here. What was the juiciest thing? I mean, I know a lot came out of this, but the juiciest thing we learned over these last 3 days?
I think there's a lot of attention on the confessions. We learned more about these confessions. Initially, we'd been told that there were several admissions made to his family. Now we find out there are more than 60 that were made during a 2-month period of time, that he made these admissions to multiple people, to guards, to other inmates who were guarding him on suicide watch, as well as to his family. Wow. And that some of those confessions, at least, contained information only the killer would know, according to the state. And he made these confessions not only verbally to these people, but also in writing. Now, we haven't seen exactly what he said. We haven't seen or heard his words, and we look forward to that at trial if this information's allowed in. But also keep in mind that these confessions came during a 2-month window when he was in maximum security prison at the Wabash Correctional Facility. Allegedly the harshest conditions that he faced during his incarceration there. And he was behaving bizarrely. He was eating his own waste.
Right.
He was smearing it on
Eating
himself.
his jail papers too.
Yes,
right?
and he was
Oh, my
running
gosh.
from one end of his cell to the other to bang his head into the wall. And he was being medicated involuntarily for psychosis at the exact same time. And that some of these confessions contained information that wasn't true. Like in one of them, allegedly, he said that he molested both girls and then shot them. They were not molested and they were not shot, according to the investigation and the autopsy reports and all of that. So the defense doesn't want all of these in.
Sure.
Even the prosecution wants to limit some of these. So we don't know how much of this information is actually going to make it in front of the jury. Something else that came out during this is that the psychologist who was treating him at that facility during this 2-month window, when he's being psychotic and making these admissions, joined some of the Facebook groups online at the time.
Like, I mean, you probably have to be up out of your mind though to be doing that, right? I mean, unless you're really trying to play that card that you're nutty. I mean, there's so many other things I would rather do to look crazy than do that, you know? But I'm wondering when exactly he did that. Was that in the beginning, or was it an escalation where like he was starving himself, then he wasn't sleeping, then he was eating the feces, you know? Like, I kind of want to know the order of that.
And was perhaps participating in discussions about him and his mental health. And so there's a lot there with these
they thought that they are thinking that was Libby, I believe, her handprint on the tree. It wasn't like somebody actually like, you know, doing that symbol on purpose. Like it was just like her maybe like grasping at the tree, I'm assuming. Like maybe when they said it, I was thinking like she was bleeding and then she like grabbed for the tree, maybe slid down and then tried to grab for it again. That's why it maybe looks like an F. Because it doesn't, I mean, it's weird how it looks. Like, you know what I mean? It's not real clear.
Confessions that we don't know yet how many of these will make it into the trial and whether or not this psychologist who was treating him could be impeached with some of this other information that's coming out about her.
Oh my gosh, Barbara, that is incredibly unprofessional, as you know. It's stunning, actually. It's really stunning.
It's a violation of HIPAA and a whole bunch of other things. And then not to mention, this has already been a case that has been so difficult to prosecute. It took almost 6 years for us to even make this arrest. And then to perhaps in some way cause a problem by behaving that way.
This is terrible. I know there were several other things, but let's hit the biggies. In terms of other big things that came out of it, I understand the prosecution has wanted certain words kept out of the trial. Where are we with that?
The judge has not ruled on that yet, but yes, they are saying that we want certain words like odinism, the names of the men that the defense has identified in filings as being these potential odinous suspects, their names they don't want mentioned. Kegan Kline, who was the guy behind the catfish account that they were looking at before they arrested Richard Allen, and Ron Logan, who was one of the first people they looked at because he was the property owner where the bodies were found, and he lied about where he was and got other people to lie on his behalf about all of that. And so they don't want any of this to come in. And what they're saying to the defense is, if you can prove that it was somebody else, then come to this hearing and prove that. And if you can't prove that, you shouldn't be able to talk about them at the trial. So we don't know what the judge is going to decide on any of that.
Right. So basically there's no concession from the state that, oh, we think we got the wrong guy, right? They are adamant.
No, they're saying, and even though when he was arrested, they said there could be other people arrested for this crime. Now, apparently in this hearing, they said, no, it's one person. It's him, and we're putting all our cards on the table for him. It's not anybody else. They say that these other odinists, that they were able to not prove that they could have been in Delphi during the critical time period. We know that Richard Allen admitted to law enforcement that he was on the trails that day around the time the girls were there. So that's a problem. There was also some new information that came out that apparently in one of his confessions, he said that he used a box cutter to commit the crimes. They were killed with a knife of some sort. And he said it was his CVS issued box cutter, which apparently CVS issues these sort of disposable box cutters to people, and that's what he used. We don't have any information that says that was the murder weapon. We don't have any information that they found the box cutter and were able to tie that to him. So perhaps that will come out at trial. But another big thing that came out was talking about the sort of ritualistic nature of this crime scene, right? There was a woman who came in and testified that, yes, this fit all the criteria for a ritualistic crime scene. But one of the detectives who went out to investigate the blood at the scene, and specifically the blood that was on the tree, the defense has alleged that that was a Nordic rune, a letter F, that fits in with this whole Odinism theory and this ritualistic killing. This detective testified that he was able to, using his own blood that he had one of the lab people draw, that he was able to take a person who was 5'4", the same height as Libby German, and put the blood on her hand and put that up against the tree, almost leaning, like to prevent yourself from falling perhaps. And that's what, in his estimation, is the source of that.
Chills. I have chills.
Apparently it was a very difficult day for the families to be sitting there and listening to some of this testimony. Most of the hearings, we have not gotten this graphic with the information. It's a precursor to the trial, though. It's going to be a very, very difficult process for them. It also was a very long day. This was 3 days of hearings yesterday. They didn't end until 8:30 last night. They started at 9 in the morning. So it was a very, very long, very, very difficult day listening to some very disturbing testimony and trying to figure out, where we are on this case. But the judge, the only motion that she ruled on so far out of this 3-day hearing was this motion to vacate his safekeeping. He is now out of that maximum security prison, won't be going back through the duration of this. Obviously, if he's convicted, he'll go back to a facility like that. But for now, he's going to be held in a county jail. That'll give his family better access to him. That'll give his lawyers better access to them. And that's something they've been fighting for, saying it interferes with their ability to defend him because they can't see him while he's in this maximum security prison as often and as freely as they would like.
Okay, so the defense got a big victory there.
Yes.
They had claimed that he was harassed and being,
apparently when the judge made that ruling.
Chris, we've answered your question like 15 times. I even paused the video just to answer your question, and then I answered it in chat. So go back and listen there, bud.
Ruling in court, Richard Allen smiled. He was embraced by his attorney. So it definitely was something that he's wanted.
Yeah, boy, oh boy. And I know we want the cameras in there. Barb, but last question quickly, please. Do you know if the families of Abby and Libby want this to be televised?
I don't know how they feel about that at the moment. They are under a gag order. They're not talking about the case. I know that they also are looking forward to the trial to see all of the information. Many of them are very convinced that the right person is behind bars at the moment, but they still want to see how that plays out in court and listen to the testimony, as difficult as that's going to be for them.
And at this point, we don't know for sure, but all signs point to this judge saying no cameras,
She seems pretty adamant that she is not going to change her mind on that. And she also makes it difficult for the reporters who are covering this because you can't even bring a phone in or a laptop to be able to be sharing notes with your newsroom or live tweeting what's going on. So it's all literally taking notes with pen and paper and then coming out and making sense of that at the end of the day.
Really, and
I would be good at that. I used to be a server. You know what I mean? My shorthand is phenomenal. I forgot, Jan, actually, you told me that you couldn't take anything in. You said, I think you even said my Apple Watch, like, because you can, I mean, I could type on this thing. It's the size of a building. It's huge. They're scared of his outfit alone. Okay. So I'm going to show you guys that was all of that video pretty much. Show you this video of Nancy because she's on one. And she's behind me tonight too. I feel like we haven't watched Nancy in a little while. But it's a video too, so it's not even a podcast. I don't have to put video up for you guys tonight. But thank you for being here.
Breaking news.
Sorry, I was gonna unpause that, but I'm gonna play it here. Yeah, no electronics. That's crazy. Like, man, but I do have good shorthand. And I have the worst chicken scratch in the world though. No one would ever be able to read it but me. Like half of my writing is cursive, half is print. I don't know why I write like that, but I do. I write really weird. I don't know if you heard that was my dog just slid across the floor to get a bone. Oh my gosh, she's silly. Okay. But to answer the question one more time about the ruin, I wanted to actually show you the picture. This is the picture I was going to show you. Okay. So this is the tree. Libby was in front of the tree. And then these are like the things that are on top of them are supposed to be like branches, tree branches. And then Abby was like kind of catty corner to her with her foot over her knee, or I think it was behind it maybe. And then they had the sticks placed on her. To me, I don't know. It doesn't really match any of these over here, like for the runes, but it doesn't really look like they're being really hidden either at the same time. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't look like they're hiding very well. So, okay. Thank you guys for being here. If you guys don't mind hitting the like button, that would be great. And let's hear what Nancy has to say.
Tonight, the Delphi murders, Little Abby and Liberty, both murdered. Tonight, the eerie ritual sacrifice murder claims. What is that? A ritual sacrifice murder? Is that the defense? And a mighty clash in court over the suspect's confessions. Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. Thank you for being with us.
Abigail Williams and Liberty German set out to walk along
so
the popular
small.
Delphi historic trail, but the two missed their appointment.
Have you guys seen that picture before? I don't remember seeing that picture before. This one I do. But that's the other one.
Pickup time. What happened to Abby and Libby?
Right now, hearings are going on in that courtroom, and joining us at the courthouse, my longtime friend and colleague, Susan Hendricks, journalist, author of Down the Hill, My Descent into the Double Murder in Delphi. You may know her from my old TV home, HLM. Well, here she is now with us with the latest. Susan, welcome. What's happening? I'm hearing that there is a mighty clash of the titans in the courtroom over alleged confessions, statements that the suspect made, and also the state is trying to quash the defense that Odinists, which are kind of like they worship like Thor and the Valkyrie, they're actually claiming that they did it. I think it's a horrible move by the state. In fact, if I were prosecuting this, I would be mad if the defense didn't claim Odinists did the deed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an excellent point, Nancy. Great to see you. Really some heated moments, as you mentioned, in the courtroom. What will be admissible? What will the judge rule on this? What will be left out? But huge, I'll start with the confessions, the alleged confessions that Richard Allen made to his wife, Kathy, and his mother, who, by the way, are front row there in the hearings. And he mouthed the prisoner, Richard Allen, the suspect, "I love you," when leaving the courtroom. So back to the Odinist theory. There's been several frank motions, and the judge has yet to rule on that. But that is where they're going. We're getting a taste of the defense theory during these hearings. Will it be admissible? And you bring up such a good point. Why not let it in? Because the one name they do want in, which is one of the Frank's motions, Brad Holder, the prosecution saying, look, he has an alibi. We don't want to allow this. But that does make sense. Let them have their theory. If he has an alibi, the jurors are going to see that. But several key decisions have to be made after this week, and I think it will give us an indication of what we'll hear during the trial in October.
I want to first talk, we'll get to the Odinist claim that worshippers of Thor and the Valkyrie, they committed the double murders. I'm going to get to that in a moment, but first, something that I understand a little bit better, the legal concept of confessions. And confessions, guys, joining me in addition to Susan Hendricks and an all-star panel is Rich Schoenstein. He's a renowned trial attorney, partner with Tartar, Krinsky, and Drogan. Rich, thank you for being with us. He knows his way around a courtroom. Confessions, in my mind, come
Look at how nice his hair is.
in
Good
all
golly.
manner of modes. It doesn't have to be a
He's a handsome
videotape
man.
confession where you get your Miranda rights first and you're sitting there with your lawyer, or like you see on TV. It's not like that. Very often, a defendant such as this guy, Richard Allen, the local pharmacy tech, says to his wife on the phone from the jail, basically, yeah, I did it. Okay, that's the confession, Rich Schoenstein.
That's
Those are
right.
some
That's
crazy eyes
absolutely
right
right. You know,
there.
jurors have common sense. They apply their life experience. They understand a husband talking to his wife. So those words are to a jury perhaps more meaningful than something he would say under police interrogation. That's him telling the truth to his own wife. And you can certainly see why the defense wants to keep out any version of a statement like that.
Okay, quick question. And remember, this is ping pong, not jest. I know you're used to standing up and making all sorts of complicated legal arguments, but what about the claim? And I certainly don't want to give the defense any ideas that this was a marital communication protected by husband-wife privilege, even though it was over a jailhouse phone.
I think there might be some credit. I think there might be some credit to that. It is a communication. It is a private communication between husband and wife. So I'd have to look at local law on the marital privilege, which I don't know in that state to really understand if they have a shot at that. But he is talking to his wife.
Rich, I've got a way to defeat it.
Okay.
Got a way to defeat it. Here it is. If you utter a confidential communication, such as you tell your lawyer, I did it, I'm up S Creek without a paddle, that's protected under attorney-client privilege. But what if you say it at a cocktail party and everybody's standing around and can hear everything you say? You yourself, by saying it around other people, have waived your attorney-client privilege, and you cannot claim that at trial. Same thing here. This is how I would defeat husband-wife. He said it on a jailhouse phone. And everybody knows, and there's a sign up there says these are being recorded. So he willingly gave up that confidentiality. That's how I would attack it.
I like the argument. You're absolutely right about a cocktail party. If you say something to your lawyer in front of other people, there is no privilege. You've waived it because you've shared it with people you don't have a privilege with. So I think that's a pretty good argument that the phone was recorded and he knew that, and he didn't have any expectation of privacy or expectation of a private spousal conversation. It's a good argument.
Okay, we're learning a lot about the...
Does anybody else think Libby's a badass for videotaping? Like actually taking out her phone and videotaping this dude? I do. I wouldn't have had the nerve. I wouldn't have had the, I would have been too scared. I would have been way too scared. I don't even like filming myself or taking a picture of myself out in public. But for them to like, I mean, she had a good level too. I mean, it wasn't like she was really hiding it so much. These pictures are cute.
Emotions being filed. Guys, this is so critical because based on the outcome of these hearings, what evidence will or not or will not be presented in front of the jury is going to be determined. Back to Susan Hendricks is joining us. Susan is joining us from the courthouse steps. She's been in the hearings. Explain to me the content of the alleged confessions.
Yes, with Dr. Monica Waller is her name, who treated Richard Allen in prison. And she is key for the prosecution. Will the judge allow her to testify during the trial? And what specifically did she hear? We are hearing that doctor, Dr. Monica Waller, heard incriminating statements from Richard Allen himself and maybe even confessions. So as we spoke of, confessions to the wife in the jailhouse phone call, the mother in the jailhouse phone call, now the doctor in the prison, will that be admissible? We'll see what the judge rules on this.
I'm just wondering what the content of those confessions, those alleged confessions really are. You're seeing a sketch that was made based on eyewitness accounts of who was seen at the Trestle Bridge when the girls were kidnapped and then murdered. Let me go out to Chris McDonough. He's director of the Cold Case Foundation, former homicide detective with, there's the video. There's the video that the girls took just before their deaths of the perp walking toward them on that Trestle Bridge. Chris McDonough worked over
I was
300.
I recorded on that bridge. No, that bridge is scary as all get out, y'all. I was on the other side of it. I was on the new side. Like when we went to Delphi to the bridge, we thought that I thought it was all new. I thought it was completely new. I didn't think that we would see the old bridge. And so when we went up there and half of the old bridge is there, it's it puts it into a different perspective. Like it just puts it, I don't know. And I didn't even record myself on walking on the trail. And these girls were just
homicide cases in his 25
That's pretty
year
close.
career.
It looks like she was
the host of
zooming in.
YouTube channel, The Interview Room. Chris McDonough, how insane does it make you when you hear about legal clashes in the courtroom where evidence could very well be suppressed? The jury may never hear about these multiple alleged confessions.
Yeah, I mean, that's from an investigative aspect, it's very frustrating, as you know more than anybody, Nancy. I mean, you've done this so long. And, the fact, though, that this guy, we used to say, confess here, this line is recorded, right? And when an inmate does that, and then, of course, you have it with a jailer potentially hearing it, and then add on top of that, you have family members who may have heard it. We can understand some of that, but you would hope that the system would work towards, the victims here in relationship to allowing that evidence in somewhere.
Judge Scott Morgan is joining me, professor of forensics, Jacksonville State University, author of Blood Beneath My Feet on Amazon, and star of a hit series, Body Bags podcast with Joe Scott Morgan. Joe Scott, you have very carefully studied the facts surrounding the actual murders. Wait for it. And now the defendant, Richard Matthew Allen, is claiming that his alleged confessions should be thrown out because he was under, quote, mental distress when he confessed to killing Abby and Liberty, aka Libby. Let's talk about what happened to Abby and Libby.
Yeah, kind of dovetailing with what Chris had said there, Nancy. I'm fascinated by this aspect of this confession. Depending upon how how granular he got with this statement that he made. It's one thing for somebody to say, I killed them, okay? But I wonder how much detail is included in this alleged confession that he made to his wife, because that's a damning bit of information. If he gets into the kind of granular detail that we're talking about relative to this very complex scene outdoors, out there adjacent to this trestle. How much information did he reveal about that? And is it going to be reflected in what the jury will eventually see in these images? And they're going to be absolutely ghastly, because we're talking about these two precious souls who were taken by sharp force injury. And that has been plainly stated. We're talking about a knife that was involved in this. And I think to a great degree, perhaps this is going to be overkill. There's going to be mutilation that's involved with that, if I dare use that word. And also what we are hearing in addition to that.
Stop. Joe Scott, you can't just drop a bomb and then just walk away like nothing happened. That doesn't work on crime stories. You just say mutilation. You think, what? I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that? I heard it. What do you mean by that?
I'll say it plainly. We're talking about perhaps to the point of a partial decapitation here, Nancy. And
We're hearing that a
you know,
lot.
when you look at that in light of a crime scene, you think about, well, what was necessary? I hate to put it this way. What was necessary to take somebody's life? Well, you know, it's not just sufficient to merely.
Could you do? I mean, could you do that? I mean, you could with a box cutter, but I mean, but why? You know what I mean? Why? Like, I don't see like the point in that. Like, you would think that, I don't know. That's weird.
Stab one of these angels. Okay, that's not sufficient to this point.
Austin?
This rises to another level. We're talking about what was done with the bodies afterwards and how they were treated in this environment. And this is going to be damning, absolutely damning, because the people in the jury are going to see things there that they can't even begin to imagine in their worst possible nightmares.
Who murdered Abigail and Liberty? A suspect is caught on video with his menacing instructions. Down the hill.
The outcome of
Yeah, I think what it was like 40 some seconds or something like that. They have like 40 some seconds of video, but they only released like they released, I believe, like the part where he just says down the hill. And then I think they released the part where he says guys down the hill, like second. Like they had like two different recordings were put out. But I think only like 3 to 4 seconds of the recordings we've heard.
Of these hearings that are happening right now
What if she had him on camera? But like the cops wouldn't have seen it because the cops would have known by now. Like they would have arrested him before now. But like what if like it's like a certain part of him? You know what I mean? Like I don't know. She caught, I don't know. Wouldn't it be crazy just if, like, let's say she caught his hand and had like a birthmark on it, or, you know what I mean? Just something along those lines, like an identifying factor.
court of law will determine what evidence the Delphi jury will hear and what evidence will be kept away from them as if it never happened. Joining me at the courthouse, a well-known journalist and investigative reporter, Susan Hendricks. Susan, explain to me what's being heard, what was heard yesterday, and what's going to be heard.
And we just heard Nancy Richard Allen say, guys down the hill. As you know, Libby was brave enough to hit record on her phone. And her grandfather, Mike, has mentioned to me several times, look, I think if she made it home, she would have said, Grandpa, look at this creepy guy on the bridge. Look what I've recorded. The defense does not want what's on Libby's phone to be admissible in court. The reasoning, they state, is that it was handed over too late in terms of discovery. It'll be interesting to see if it's allowed in, because to me, this is what is going to convict Richard Allen if he is guilty. That video that she was able to get. And I'm sitting with the family members, Nancy, of day one of the hearing. It's the first time I ever saw Richard Allen walk in person. And it was very eerie to see him sit down. He turns around, looks at me, Becky, Libby's grandmother, and Libby's grandmother's daughter, Tara, right in the eyes, and just glares at us, and continue to do that throughout the hearing. And I was trying to get a read on him as I'm looking at him sitting there. And part of the evidence that Baldwin, the defense attorney, handed over to the judge had the crime scene photo on half of it. It's a split screen. He's waving it around. I'm sitting near the family. I could get a glimpse of the crime scene photos from the attorney. And I heard Tara say to Becky, close your eyes. It's that excruciating, but this is a necessary step before the trial. And I know that these families have been waiting a long time to be here, but very creepy throughout the hearing. Richard Allen turning around, staring me directly in the eyes. It doesn't move his gaze. It was something I've never seen before.
Imagine 7 years you've been waiting to get answers. Oh my lordy.
How
That's a lot. That's a long
dare
time.
he turn around and look at you and the victims' families and just glare at you? And he's probably glaring at you because you're sitting with them. I mean, you know what? Chris McDonough, how many times in court, you're a veteran homicide investigator, have you been in court to testify? You got a murder, much less double murder of teen girls, allegedly sitting there. They usually won't even meet your eye. But to turn around and glare at you in open court, that's a whole nother level right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that he allegedly is a child killer, that in of itself, it just gives you a little insight into potentially, what the victims were seeing themselves that day at his hands. And the fact that the weapons, there are 2 weapons here potentially. They found this round underneath one of the victims as well as a knife. What Doc Morgan was talking about earlier, the viciousness and the brutality of that personal.
Probably use the GUN first. That way you could get them, not to run away, not to just to kind of control the scene a little bit. And I think that's why he used that personally.
By using that type of weapon. Now you add that to children. I can understand why the defense does not want him in the Department of Corrections right now. They'd rather have him in a better spot, i.e. in the jail.
Well, yes, Chris McDonough, because obviously he can't control himself. Okay, let me throw this out there. Who would be the best? You know what? Let me go to you, Joe Scott, and then I'll follow it up with Karen Stark. Joe Scott, you have been in court with a lot of killers, right? Because you're a death investigator. Have you ever been on the elevator? Let's just pretend in the courthouse. Somebody's standing right next to you, and they stare. Does anybody turn around and look you right in the eyes on the elevator? No, they don't. Has that ever happened to you? And if so, how did it make you feel?
Well, it certainly, even someone like me that's seen a thing or two, it creeps me out, certainly. And the idea that the stone cold gaze, that he would sit there and stare at the family in particular, and Susan as well, but sit there. And this goes to another piece, Nancy, the idea, Chris had mentioned this round that was found at the scene. He has, in my estimation at least, this thread that runs through him, what I refer to as menacing. That weapon, the firearm, was used, I believe, as an instrument of menacing with these children. It's the idea of taking that firearm and moving that slide back to rack it like this. And everybody that's ever watched a television show is familiar with that. These children that would have been there would have been menaced by that. And I think that this is a further continuation of him glaring, leaning in, glaring, and holding a gaze. It seems to be a pattern to me. I don't know. I mean, that's kind of Karen's area, but for me as an investigator, that's putting 2 and 2 together there.
You know what you're saying about racking the shotgun? I don't know if you remember Rifleman. It's an old black and white show. I was just a little girl, and I remember my older brother, would have it on, Rifleman, and at some point he'd ratchet. And I didn't even know what that meant, but it's like hearing a rattlesnake or a gunshot. You never forget it. When you hear it, you instinctively know something is very wrong.
Yeah, it has a very distinct pitch to it, and the sound, the mechanism itself, when that slide goes back on that weapon, and we do know that I believe, if I'm correct, it was a 6 hour that he had. When that thing is racked back, it has a very definitive sound to it. That round is ejected, and of course, he forgets about it apparently at that point in time and leaves this behind. Yeah, well, there you go.
Technical legal term, idiot. Hold on. Rich Schoenstein, you're a veteran trial lawyer. Aren't you supposed to school your clients about how to behave in the courtroom? I mean, I would see defendants, murder defendants, drug lords, rapists, child molesters come in court looking like they're a Wall Street banker. I'm like, who is that? Do you remember, let's think, Scott Peterson? I would watch him walk into court every morning like the football quarterback. He'd be all puffed up in an awesome suit, looking great. I didn't think he looked great or handsome, but other people did. Who else? Ted Bundy. Menendez brothers. I'm hearing it in my ear. Yeah, the Menendez brothers come into courtroom looking like they're freshmen at Harvard. And they have their defense attorney picking lint off them and petting them in court. You know what? Stop. And Ted Bundy even looks charming in the courtroom. It's freaky, but their lawyers had them schooled. This idiot turns around and glares at the victim's grandma, and Susan, our Susan Hendricks, glares at her in the courtroom. Oh, I hope he does that to the jurors. I just hope. He has not been schooled,
Jurors.
No, not at all. And you're absolutely right. You got to teach your defendant how to act in court, because whether he testifies or not, and this guy's not testifying, so forget about that. He's going to be watched every second he's in that courtroom. The jury's going to have their eyes on him. They're going to see how they act. And the bottom line, Nancy, is if they think he's creepy, if he acts creepy, he's in big trouble, because this is the creepiest crime imaginable, killing 2 young girls in the middle of the woods. And if the jury sees him and thinks he's a creep, it's going to be so much easier for them to convict him. And if I was this guy's lawyer, I would be working with him on that extensively.
Hey, and what about O.J. Simpson? May he rot in hell. He would sit there and doodle the whole time. Hey, Karen Stark, this is a visceral thing.
She said, may he rot in hell. I'm sorry, that would just make me kind of giggle, though.
How you don't stare at somebody on the elevator. You ever been in a restaurant and you look over and somebody's just staring at you, so you don't look back? And then when you do look back, they're still staring at you. There's something weird and awkward about that. Did you hear what Schoenstein just said? He's a veteran trial lawyer, and he's right. How do you hide your creepy in court? This guy can't hide his creepy. He's going to have to look down and write notes like Simpson wrote, I did it. And, whatever he was drawing over there. And also another thing, Karen Stark, while I've got you, it's visceral. Remember, we've been told when you're going to go feed an animal at the zoo or in various encounters, you don't look them in the eye, because they perceive that as a sign of aggression. Okay. I'm just speaking frankly and plainly to you as if I would tell a jury. I'm sure there's all sorts of, what can I say? Mental and psychological analysis of what I'm saying. But the fact that this guy turns around and eyeballs in an alarming way, a menacing way, Susan Hendricks, she's just sitting there with the grandma, for Pete's sake, and looking at the victim's family like that. It's wrong. Okay, help me out. Give me the psychological term of what I'm trying to tell you.
It's nonverbal behavior, Nancy, and we have to watch that nonverbal behavior because, as Joseph Scott said, this is menacing. And unfortunately, if you think about these 2 little girls with this man who's daring in the courtroom, he's boldly staring. And yes, you want to have eye contact under certain circumstances. You're taught not to look away. But this guy, he has no shame. He actually wants to come across this way, like, I dare you to condemn me.
Well, I don't know
Please
about that.
join us on our mission to find missing people, especially children, to solve unsolved homicides. If you're on the go, catch us on your favorite podcast app where you can get all of our content.
Video reveals the suspected killer.
Aside from his creepy and menacing stares right at the family of Libby and Abby, oh, when I think about them, they're just two little teen girls. And from what we hear, there may be evidence that this 13 and 14-year-old little girl were actually mutilated. Mutilated. By who? According to prosecutors, the local pharmacy tech. I mean, how many times do you think he saw them come in and out of the pharmacy? And then the bullet that was cycled through the gun. You heard Joe Scott describing racking the gun. That bullet fell, according to the state, near the bodies. An idiot, aka the defendant, Richard Matthew Allen, age 51, left it there. Now just think about it. For so long, details about the crime scene were kept under wraps. And I've got to hand it to LE law enforcement that didn't come out, because they later, pursuant to warrant, I would like to add, because Schoenstein's listening to me, pursuant to warrant, they go into Allen's home and they find the gun still there, because he didn't realize he left the bullet back there. It matches the gun in his home. That ballistics evidence is so powerful if what we're being told is the evidence is actually true.
Where the CVS is located, my guess would be maybe if they're in and out, like going and probably buying snacks, drinks, things of that nature, it's near the trail. Like we went past it and I was like, whoa, I was like, wait a minute, that's a CVS. I was like, turn this car around. Like I couldn't believe it, because it was like, just, I don't know, right there. Like wasn't expecting to see it, I guess, when we went to see the bridge. That's what I would think, maybe.
True.
Kind of like, you know, like local gas stations.
So much happening in the courtroom. So much. Guys, listen to this.
The defense wants 4 sanctions. They want the court to tell jurors the prosecution violated rules with a delay in turning over exculpatory evidence. They want the judge to allow the defense to play any video that was belatedly produced without state objection. The defense also wants to prevent the state from rebutting evidence former Rushville police chief Todd Click provided on May 1st, 2023. And they want to prevent the prosecution from using any data or info from Liberty German's phone in evidentiary presentations.
My stars, what else do they want? A shopping spree at Nordstrom's? That's a lot. Hey, quick answer. Susan Hendricks, when is the actual trial supposed to start?
It's set for October, Nancy, but as you know, it's been postponed and delayed several times, possibly another tactic. But it felt to me like it's going to go forward in October. We'll see.
So let me get this. They're whining that they've gotten exculpatory evidence too late. It's the end of July, August, September, October, 3 months. You've got time. Okay, what else do we know? Listen.
The state wants to limit what the defense can mention in front of jurors without prior approval from the judge. Prosecutors have several pages of items, including personal attacks on the prosecutor, any attempt to introduce evidence of third-party motive that is not relevant or would unfairly prejudice jurors. This includes mentions of Odinism, ritualistic killing, references to how discovery was handed over, and any mention of an investigation conducted by former Rushville police chief Todd Click.
Odinism. Okay, I think the state is making a horrible mistake right now, trying to suppress the defense theory. An Odinist killed the girls. What am I talking about? Listen.
Court documents allege that Abby Williams and Liberty German were ritualistically sacrificed by members of a pagan Norse religion called Odinism. The defense writes the bodies of both victims had tree branches placed on them in specific patterns, and one had small sticks in her hair to resemble horns or antlers. Odinists are said to be enamored with Viking culture.
Okay, I just wanted to pause a moment and let that sink in. That Odinists obsessed with Viking culture. somehow infiltrated this small, very sparsely populated area. The Odinists infiltrated and then made 2 human sacrifices to the Norse god Odin. Why in the world, Rich Schoenstein, would the state want to keep that out? I would be fighting for the defense to please make that argument.
I agree with you, Nancy. And forget about how ridiculous for a minute the argument is. When the defense stands up there and says somebody else did it, they're taking on a burden of proof that they don't need to take on. The defense has no burden of proof. They just have to challenge the sufficiency of the proof and reasonable doubt. But if they make this a binary choice between either Richard Allen did it or Odinists did it, I don't see how that's going to help them at all. I think that is biting off a burden that they don't need to assume going into this trial.
Well, there's more. They're connecting Odinism, the worship of the Norse gods, to something much more nefarious. Listen.
Deciding what information the jury can be told at trial. That is the purpose of hearings this week in the Delphi Murders case. In earlier court filings, prosecutors requested the court bar the defense from bringing up certain terms from past arguments, like the Odinism theory. The defense argues the murders of Abby Williams and Libby German were ritualistic and done by Odinists, not Richard Allen. Odinists practice an ancient Nordic religion worshiping Norse gods such as Odin and Thor, and some claim it's common among white supremacist prison gang members in Indiana. The defense uses the Odinism theory to point to other possible suspects.
And there we have it. The defense is using some hybrid argument of the sod defense. Some other dude did it. They're claiming it's kind of a mixture between the Viking worshipers, the Odinists, and white supremacists. So I guess you put that all into the blender, and boom, out comes your killer. Is that actually what they're saying, Susan Hendricks? Odinists kind of mixed with white supremacists, and that's going to conjure up this evil specter to the jury? Are they really saying that?
Absolutely. And well said, Nancy. It feels like they are looking for, obviously, some sort of reasonable doubt. Pick and choose as you will, depending on how the judge rules. What I think is most damaging is that Richard Allen put himself on the bridge. This was a day before what was on Libby's phone was released. So he goes up to an officer that he knows, Dan Doolin, in a parking lot of a grocery store and says, hey, I was down there at this particular time. I didn't really see much. Fast forward to almost 6 years later, more than 6 years. And allegedly, we don't know the details of exactly what led to Richard Allen, but supposedly they went back through the files and found that guy that put himself on the bridge a day later. After the murders, Libby's cell phone evidence came out. I think if that came out earlier, he wouldn't have gone up to Dan Doolin and said, hey, I was there.
Probably not.
Who murdered Abigail and Liberty?
Do you think that whoever this is in this picture, in this video, do you think, I mean, I'm assuming he wouldn't have known. He wouldn't have known he was being recorded, or he would have taken the phone. Right? I mean, you would have destroyed the phone. Man, she was so smart to record.
A suspect is caught on video with his menacing instructions. Down the hill.
From trying to suppress cell phone data, I assume that's cell phone from the little girl victims themselves, or maybe it's cell phone data from the defendant, Richard Allen. From that to suppressing alleged statements, confessions, to the shrink, to his wife, and in front of jailhouse guards and inmates, good luck with that, to claims of not only some other dude did it, that being Viking worshipers, but also now the defense is roping in a white nationalist group. Listen.
Attorneys for the suspect, Richard Allen, filed documents saying that their client is innocent and that members of a white nationalist group are the ones responsible for killing the teenagers as part of a, quote, ritualistic sacrifice. The defense said the group had a motive because the girl's parents was dating a person of another race. Attorneys also requested the immediate transfer of Allen from the facility where he was being held. They say members of the white nationalist group apparently work there and are threatening his life.
Okay, so Allen is claiming the Odinists did it, the Viking worshippers, and that somebody whose name is a mystery belonging to a white nationalist group, don't know which one, was angry because somebody related to the victims was dating somebody of a different race, and they were that angry. Instead of taking it out on the somebody's dating, they decided to kill and mutilate 2 little girls. That's the defense theory. Okay, please go with that, Richard Allen. Please, I beg you, argue that at trial. Nothing could make me happier. And I see Richard Schoenstein basically gnashing his teeth and twisting his tail right now, because that is doom for the defense.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really tough sell because the theory doesn't fly just when it comes out of their mouth. First of all, is it Odinists or is it white nationalists? Is it a ritual or is it because somebody was dating the wrong person? I mean, they've got to pick a theory and stick with it if they're going to go down that road. So that's a problem. I haven't seen that they have sufficient evidence to put this forward. So I'm not really convinced they're going to go down this road at trial. What they're doing now, I think, Nancy, is they're trying to keep all of that available to them at trial. They're trying to limit what the prosecution can use. But I think we have to wait for the trial itself to see what they really argue. If they do go down that road, I think they're making a big mistake.
Okay, their zany defense theories aside, let's talk about some hard evidence. This is what the defense better be worried about. Listen.
Police searched Allen's home and seized a handgun, which investigators believe Allen used in the crime, and matches an unspent bullet found next to the girls' bodies. About 10 hunting and utility knives were also confiscated, along with a blue Carhartt jacket and other clothes. Investigators also took carpet samples and swabs from the seatbelts in Allen's Ford Focus vehicle that they believe was seen on the trail that day. And Allen admitted in 2 separate interviews that he was on the bridge that day. He says he went out on the bridge to watch the fish.
Here's a very technical legal term. I hope you're sitting
You can't
down.
see
You
the
may
fish
need to
from
lay
there.
down for this one. It's
There's
very
nothing
complicated. It's
to be looking at.
Latin. Defense attorneys love
There's nothing to look at down there to look at fish.
throwing around Latin terms on the elevator in the courthouse. Of course, I couldn't be happier. Idiot! Susan Hendricks joining me in the courthouse. Does Richard Allen, did he actually volunteer that he was at the scene of the double murders, the day of the murders, quote, watching the fish from a trestle bridge? How tall is that thing over the water? Who can see a fish down in that muddy water? It reminds me of the Ichikani, where I grew up. You couldn't see a thing in it. So what?
You could see like some beavers creating a dam, but you couldn't see fish down in the water.
He actually says he's on the bridge watching the fish.
Yes, and looking down at his stop sticker as he's walking towards the bridge, saying, "Oh, I was just there looking down." Keep in mind, I know the panel knows this, the voice, his voice, if it is.
I was just kind of like Kohlberger. Like, I was there, but I was stargazing. No, I was there, but I was watching the fish.
Is him, if he's found guilty, down the hill is in that footage on Libby's cell phone. And I believe that's why they don't want it in the courtroom. And I do want to point out, I've seen, as I mentioned, him glaring at the families and myself, but you never hear him talk. And I believe maybe that's by design, because his voice is on that cell phone. Will they want to compare that, even if he doesn't testify? I mean, I didn't even hear a whisper to his attorneys, and I was staring at him the entire time to notice how he was reacting, because he saw the crime scene photos. They were put down right across from him, and I saw him push it away and glance down for a minute. So I was watching his every move, and never did we hear him speak during the hearing. So we'll see if that is why they want that out.
So interesting, Susan Hendricks. Jessica Morgan, did I ever tell you about my slew-footed armed robber who was also
not even a yes or no, like no, Your Honor, yes, Your Honor,
spell, and he gave a handwriting sample. He could not help misspelling things just like he did the bank note, the bank robbery note. Don't touch the LRAM. This is a Roby. Did the same thing in his handwriting sample. But he was also duck-footed, slew-footed. And when he walked up like that to the witness stand, all 12 jurors were hanging over the jury rail. Some things you just can't hide. I think Susan Hendricks is right. They don't want him speaking in the courtroom because it's going to match to down the hill, down the hill. And not only that, the voice and the mode of walking. I think we have a video of the perp, the alleged perp, actually walking forward. If he is caught walking in the courtroom and there is anything at all unusual or identifiable in his gait, the prosecutor is going to seize on that.
Yeah, they will. And as you well know, one of the things that we look for in forensics, people are compelled to give exemplars of their writing. I really wonder, Nancy, can he be compelled to give a voice exemplar relative to the statement that is being made that has been recorded? And if so, have they done a voice comparison relative to that? You know, while they have him here, did they get a warrant to compare him, to compare his voice, to do a voice analysis on him, and also his gait? I think that's going to play.
Wouldn't that fall under like the Fifth Amendment, right? Like you don't have to self-incriminate. Like, to me, you don't have to talk. You don't have to self-incriminate yourself.
Scott, we're showing the video.
Can you get? I guess you can get a warrant to compel someone to speak. I mean,
yeah, right now you're talking about his gait, and you know what else? He's not looking down at his cell phone. I wonder if they've done a forensic.
With the bridge is still there. Yeah, half of it is there. I actually have a video on my playlist of me and Vincent. We went to Delphi. It's like 3.5 hours from where I live. And we had to get out of the house for a day. So we decided to go to Delphi. And we walked along the whole path and everything. And we went on the bridge. We just didn't go on the older part of the bridge because it was blocked off by the new part.
Forensics exam of his cell phone to determine if he was really looking at the stock market ticker. Like anybody can see that on a cell phone. I can't read a darn thing on there. How can he read that little ticker at the bottom of the screen? He's not looking at his phone. That's a lie. We can see his gait. Does he walk like that in the courtroom? Susan Hendricks pointed out they're not letting him speak because it may match down the hill. The girl's caught on their phone. And I've just been advised by my producer here in the studio, Jackie, that bridge is 63 feet tall. Not really conducive to fish watching, is it?
Delphi murder suspect Richard Allen claims he didn't do it and that a pagan cult is at fault.
It seems to me like the ballistics evidence is going to be possibly the strongest evidence in this case, but we don't know all the evidence the state is producing. Susan Hendricks joining me at the courthouse. Susan, investigative reporter and journalist, any idea? Oh, hey, the name of your book, Down the Hill, My Descent into the Double Murder in Delphi. Susan, what do you think is the most powerful evidence the state is going to bring out at trial, and what will be the defense counter?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it has to do with the search warrant of his home. What did they find inside that home? Was there any DNA on the jacket, that blue Carhartt? If he wore that jacket on the bridge that day, because it appears the person on the bridge guy, is in some sort of jacket. I believe it's his voice, as I mentioned. I believe there's some evidence that we don't know about. And of course, the ballistics. But again, Libby's video to me stands out. And of course, the confessions, if they're admissible. But I think it's just stacking up against him what the prosecution can and I believe will use.
We stop and remember American hero, Sergeant Christopher David Fitzgerald, Temple University, Pennsylvania, PD. Sergeant Fitzgerald fatally shot attempting to arrest a burglary suspect, survived by distraught, grieving wife Marissa and 4 children.
Oh my God.
Armani, Autumn, Giselle, and Julian. American hero, Sergeant Christopher David Fitzgerald. Thank you.
I can never I can't ever turn them off whenever she does those. You know what I mean? I just always feel so bad. She started doing those fallen heroes at the end of her lives, after her videos. Oh man. Did you walk normally? Okay, so yeah, I was normal on the bridge. I didn't walk on the actual the older part, like the part that you guys have seen. The part that I walked on, they redid half the bridge. They might have even, I don't know if they're redoing the other half or not, but the half that everything happened on with Abby and Libby is the other half of, and it's still the old bridge. So when you're walking up onto the bridge, you don't even realize that the old bridge is there until you're halfway across the new bridge. And you're like, wait a minute, the old bridge is still here. And it's literally, it was traumatizing almost. It was something else. I didn't expect to see that bridge. I'm glad that I saw it now. I think I'm glad I saw it, but I mean, it hit me hard. It hit me hard to see it because I thought we were going to walk over this whole brand new bridge. That's what I had in my head, thinking. And we got halfway over it and I was like, oh, and we had our dogs and everything with us. So you'll be able to see the dogs acting all crazy if you watch the video. But the video's under my playlist. I think it's under Delphi or Abby and Libby. I think it's under Abby and Libby. Yeah. So yeah, let's see. Let me go over here. We'll do a poll before we go. We'll say, do you think Richard Allen's guilty? Okay, I just started the poll. So everyone make sure you put your guess in there or your answer. And yeah, we went there. When was that? Last September, I think, or August. September maybe. I think it was September. It was warm. I remember that. I remember I was so warm. I was miserable. I shouldn't have been complaining about myself, but I was my dog dragged me across a parking lot, clear across it. Didn't care. She didn't care that I was behind her, just holding on for dear life. And it was just it was pretty crazy. And then when we I think that with me being, I was hot and I was like, okay, we're doing this, we're gonna do this. And then when I got up there, I got up to the bridge and I saw that the other bridge was still there. And I mean, it hit me hard. I was like, oh man. I think I stopped recording, and then maybe I started recording again after I was not done crying. Mom's gonna be here in 5 minutes. Oh, Phantom, you're gonna have so much fun. Appreciate it and love it while you got it, because moms, they go by too quick. They're here. They're not here long enough with us. So I don't know. I think that a lot of people think he's innocent. I think a lot of, I don't know. It's the people that think that he's innocent are people that I can see thinking that he's innocent. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of hard to explain. Yeah, she's staring at me. Nancy is. Yeah, Nancy's got my back. Nancy hangs out over here with me. Bullhorn Betty, just remember, believe that. Just trust and believe she's over here with us. Yeah, how long has it been since you saw your mom? Because you said she got on a plane and came over here, right? She boarded the plane and was like, I'm just going to go see my kid. I love that. I love your mom and I don't even know her. I love that. That's really, really cool. Just, I want to go see my kid. I'm going to go see my kid. I think that's really cute. Vincent's mom came to the hotel last year and it was really funny because he was like, my mom's here. And it was 8 a.m. He's like, my mom's here. And he just it was so cute because he never went through that. He never had a girlfriend. I was his first one. I thought it was cute because we stay at a hotel right down the road from his mom, about a quarter mile, if that. She's up on the hill and we are down in the middle of the hill. It's been 10 years since you lost your mom. Oh, that's how long it's been for mine, Steph. October, I think it'll be 10 years this year, actually. 2000, I can't even remember. Do you know, it's so weird that I remember the date, October 30th. I don't remember the year. Wait, it would be the year that me and Vincent. 2016. So 8 years. I lied. I'm not 10 yet. Feels like it's been forever. But I talk to her every day. You know. Did you guys get the poll in? Okay, let's go look at the poll. We got 27 votes, 63% say yes, 4% no, 33% don't know. Well, that's good. Some of us don't know. You know what I mean? It is, because we're going to learn more about the case. We're going to go back through stuff, and we'll recap on things that we haven't went over before, or things we've went over before and we need to go back over, because we've read all the documents. I'm pretty sure this was the case that I read the I think I read the probable cause affidavit like 3 times in one day. And then we listened to it by that little robot guy off of Nancy. I'm pretty sure it was this case. But I remember I read that a lot in one day, like multiple times, because I did like a pre-recorded, a live, and then I read it just on my own. So yeah. But thank you guys all for being here tonight. I really appreciate the crowd. I really do. We need to even though cameras probably aren't going to be in the courtroom, there's still going to be fireworks going on in this case. I mean, you've got these defense attorneys were threatened with, like, they were threatened, you better quit, you better just leave. And they were like, we're going to do pro bono. We want to work for free. Like, I mean, it is one of those cases where it's like, what is going on? Like, is he guilty? Is he not guilty? Like, you're guessing a little bit in this case. I feel like, in the beginning, I wasn't guessing at all. Now I'm just like, I think it was him, but I want to see more evidence. I just want to see what else they've got. I want to see him walk. I want to see his gait. I want to hear him talk. I want to know it all. Like, I want to hear it myself. Like, I like to hear things for myself and then make my own assumption. More than 2 weeks long? Well, maybe. Wow. Yeah. Squeaky. They said, better start journalist. You better start journalism, or whatever he said. I was like, oh gosh, he mad. He big mad. October 6th. I lost mine October 30th, Steph. That's crazy. My brother said, way to ruin Halloween, because we have the worst. We have the worst personality. They're funny, but we have like the worst humor. So every year I cry and I laugh at the same time, because it's like my mom but my brother, we're those people that always try to make a bad situation kind of like something funny out of a bad situation. Like, just like my mom's apartment caught on fire, and we went to this restaurant. We were listening. We're with the Red Cross, and they had the song "We Didn't Start the Fire" came on, and we didn't start the fire. It was another guy, and I was like, "That was." I mean, it was pretty funny. We have great humor like that. Yeah, everyone vote on the poll. I'll close it down here in a second. We got 33 votes, 64 yes, 33% no, 3% no on the poll now. But thank you guys for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. I'll be back tomorrow night. Today feels like a Saturday to me, but it's definitely Sunday. It's the 4th. So that's all I got for you guys. Yeah, that's all I got. So I'll see you guys all tomorrow night. I'm not sure what case we'll cover. Maybe we'll do more Delphi. Maybe we'll cover a different case. Maybe something good will happen. And one of the, the kids that are missing that we're covering, maybe one of them will come home. But thank you guys for being here tonight. I appreciate it. I'll see you guys all tomorrow, and have a good Monday. Bye, guys.